Sin literally rewires your brain so that you can't see the world correctly. And I'm going to show you how. So our brains are like a computer, and they have a basic operating system that runs 5 primary programs: protection, provision, pleasure, participation, and principles to live by. These things are necessary to create a stable operating environment, which is exactly what your brain is always trying to accomplish automatically, with or without your help. If someone drops you off on a deserted island somewhere, the very first thing your brain is going to do is run a program called protection. And it's going to do everything it possibly can to ensure that you get to a safe place so that you can survive. As soon as you feel safe, next program that runs is provision. It's going to start looking for stable sources of provision. Once provision is resolved, it gives you a reward, pleasure. It starts looking for opportunities to give you pleasure. And the reason it does this, and it has this at this level, is that provision and protection are necessary for survival. And so it gives you a reward at the end of stabilizing these 2 portions of your environment. Now, if you happen to reach a place where these things are stable, or stable enough anyway, then your brain starts running a 4th program. That program is participation. Where do you fit in? Whether it's fitting in with other people, whether it's fitting into the environment that you're in, it all has to do with equalizing. So figuring out how you fit best into the environment so that you can maximize opportunities and get the very best out of whatever situation you happen to find yourself in. And then lastly, it runs a program called Principles to Live By. Essentially what it's doing is it's looking for patterns of behavior that consistently produce protection, provision, pleasure, and participation. And once it establishes what these patterns are, it's going to sit there and run them autonomously over and over and over again, because this is how it creates a stable operating environment for you to live. And all of this is happening subconsciously without your awareness of it. But here's the problem. Satan's been around a lot longer than we have. And he's been watching our species for as long as we've been around. So he knows that if he wants to control us, all he really has to do is threaten our operating environment. And he does this by finding whichever one of the 5 pillars is the weakest, and then he threatens it. And as soon as he threatens it, then our brain automatically goes into overdrive, focusing on how do we solve this problem. Now from there, the next step is to upload a different protocol. So let's say that the way that we get provision, the way we know to get provision because we've been walking with the Lord for whatever period of time it is to do things the right way. Well, Satan comes along, he destabilizes your provision situation. Then he comes in and says, hey, there's this thing called OnlyFans where you can just upload pictures of yourself and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why not try that? Or, hey, you've been doing all this work providing and protecting and making sure that you have a stable environment. You need a break. You need some rest. Why don't you try checking out some stuff on the internet that maybe you shouldn't look at? Or why don't you maybe try whatever this substance is that will make you feel better? And the reason that these things work is because God's way is typically slower than sin. Sin is usually a fast fix. God's ways usually take a little bit longer. And so whether it be out of fear or impatience, we will seek to solve that problem the fastest way we possibly can. The problem is that when we do that, what we've done is we have trained our brain to align to a lie. And if you think I'm making this up, just go look at the scientific studies that have been done on people who are longtime users of inappropriate things on the internet. And what it tells you is that it rewires your brain so that you can't find intimacy without corruption. Now, here's why this is such a big deal. Because if you continuously rewire your brain to a deception, then eventually what happens is it forms a worldview or a perspective, basically. So what that means is the way that you view and experience the world is not actually aligned with how the world really is. And we see this all the time in just very simple things like somebody having a bad encounter with a person of an opposite gender, or a person of a particular color, or a person of a particular a job description, right? And so what happens? They have this negative experience. It becomes a formative experience that shapes the way that they view anybody that looks like, acts like, or sounds like whoever that person is. And so then whenever they meet somebody that looks, acts, or sounds like that person, they treat them as though they are a threat. Now, what happens when you treat someone as a threat? Well, more than likely, they're going to respond in kind. And so it becomes a sort of self-creating loop when the reality was that the person that you met may or may not have actually been a threat. They may not have been the kind of person that you needed to watch out for. But because of how you responded to them, it caused a chain reaction that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is exactly how Satan hijacks our systems. He gets us first into the position where we believe that God isn't going to show up and supply us with whatever the thing is that we need. And then as soon as he gets us into that place where we feel destabilized and we feel like we can't trust God to show up, then he provides us with an easy and obvious out so that we then begin to rewire our brain to a deception. And then over time, what this does is it corrupts our worldview to where we no longer see the world accurately. If you look at the state of the world right now and you wonder how the heck we got here, this is how. It was a slow process of steady, slight corruptions of worldview until finally it got to a place where everybody views everybody as a threat. Everybody views everybody as the problem. And it's all through a lens. We're literally viewing each other and the world through stereotypes, not through actual information that's coming from the other people that we're interacting with. So the obvious next question is, how do we inoculate ourselves against this? And the answer is found in Romans. It says, no longer conform to the former pattern of this world, the world that is passing away, but instead keep allowing yourself to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I feel like a broken record because I've probably said this so many times on this channel, but that is the method. It is resisting the patterns of this world, the ones that are tied to our biology. It's resisting those patterns and doing exactly what Jesus said. Don't worry about what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear, but instead seek first the kingdom of heaven, and then these things will be added unto you. Because if the things that you have were provided to you by God, then you will not spend your entire life attempting to protect them, because you know that the one who gave them to you is more than capable of protecting them and replacing them if they're taken. It is only when we are tricked into believing that everything that we have, all of our safety, all of our provision, all of our pleasure, all of our participation, all of our principles to live by are things that we have to go out and acquire and protect. If we live in that world, if that is our worldview, then we are primed for deception. But if our worldview is that everything that we need is supplied by the Father, now that doesn't mean you just sit around and do nothing, right? Acquisition by obedience, not acquisition by compulsion would be, I think, probably the way you would compare that. All right. So basically what Jesus says is, how do you acquire the things that you need? Not by compulsion, not, oh, I need a job, so I got to run around and go find one, or, oh, I got to get food, so I need to steal from somebody, or, oh, I need pleasure, so I'm going to immediately go and jump on the internet and start looking at things. No. If I need these things, what do? I go to my Father in heaven who says he knows that I need these things. And I say, Father, I know that you know that I need these things. How do I seek first the kingdom of heaven today so that you can add these things to me, so that I don't have to support it myself, so I don't have to hold up my life, but rather my life is built on you, the rock that is stable, that I don't have to worry about, so that if somebody comes and takes everything that I have, like Job, I don't have to worry about it, because I know that you are the one who provided it the first time, and you're more than capable of resupplying it if somebody else comes and takes it. This is the worldview that protects us. And the first step to developing that worldview, which requires a renewed mind to have it, is resisting the patterns of compulsion, the patterns that compulse us to go and grab the first job that comes along, the patterns that compulse us to go out and grab the first mate that we can find, the compulsions that drive us to jump in bed with whoever it is that comes along, the compulsions that drive us to hurt each other, to step on each other in order to get positions of power and safety. We have to resist these compulsions of our bodies, because these bodies are tied into a system of deception. And as long as we continue to remain subjugated to that system, we are susceptible to being hacked. And if we can be hacked, then we can be controlled. And if we can be controlled, then we are not free.